Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain the Ninja War of Torakage. This movie tells the story of a former ninja in the Sengoku period. After retiring from the ninja life, he lives a normal and peaceful life. However, because people from his past threaten his family's life, he is forced to return to being a ninja. What is the next story of the ninja? Let's find out in the Ninja War of Torakage.
Torakage.
The Ninja War of Torakage begins by showing a man named Tiger Shadow hoeing the ground in a grass field during the day. He was then visited by his wife, Moonlight, and his son, Solitary, who brought lunch for him. He then ate lunch while talking with his wife and son peacefully. Not long after, suddenly, 3 women came that he immediately recognized as the subordinates of a fire ninja group leader named Dongyun. As it turned out, Tiger Shadow was Dongyun's subordinate. He followed the 3 women into the forest. It turned out that they had come there to convey Dongyun's message asking for help from Tiger Shadow. However, their request was immediately rejected by Tiger Shadow because he no longer wanted to be a ninja, a profession he had left for 6 years, and he immediately left them in the forest. It turned out that Tiger Shadow had set a trap in the forest, which immediately alerted the 3 women. Tiger Shadow then returned with his wife and son to their home. That night at their house, Tiger Shadow and his family were resting by lying on a swing, chatting about their quiet and happy life. But in the middle of talking with Moonlight, he suddenly remembered his dark past, where he and Moonlight had to undergo a terrible punishment given by a woman, who was none other than Dongyun. Dongyun gave them that punishment because they had broken a rule, precisely because Tiger Shadow had impregnated Moonlight out of wedlock, without Dongyun knowing. But then Tiger Shadow forgot about the incident and went to sleep with his family. While they were sleeping that night, suddenly, several of Dongyun's men came who wanted to capture Tiger Shadow and his family. They left from there to bring Tiger Shadow and Moonlight to Dongyun. They then run into Dongyun, who immediately informs them that she wants to give them the task of retrieving a golden scroll in just 2 days. The golden scroll contained clues to the location of a treasure in a city. Dongyun then holds the Solitary hostage, saying that if they manage to retrieve the golden scroll, then Solitary will be released. For the sake of their son's safety, Tiger Shadow and Moonlight were willing to carry out this coercive task. The distance they had to cover to get the gold scroll was around 93 miles. Tiger Shadow and Moonlight then made their way through a forest. At night in the middle of the forest, they found the traces of someone they assumed was a hunter. Then, because the journey was quite long, the two decided to take a break. While having dinner, Tiger Shadow prepared traps to protect them while Moonlight sat with her eyes closed. They then discussed their son being detained by Dongyun and again worried about his condition. After resting for a while, they continued their journey. On the way, they saw many green lights floating in the air. They then realized that the green lights surrounded the human bones scattered on the ground. At that time, suddenly a strange-looking man appeared, saying that a curse had come, but Tiger Shadow and Moonlight paid no heed to the man's words. Then, they took some of the cloth lying near the human bones and immediately left from there. Tiger Shadow and Moonlight finally arrived at the area where the golden scroll they were looking for was located. The 2 of them were dressed like ordinary people from the cloth they had picked up earlier not to look suspicious. As they walked into the crowd, Tiger Shadow accidentally saw a building in which there were many people gathered to perform a sacrificial ritual, led by a man named Nakabara. There was also a woman named Mizuki, who was singing along with the ritual. After witnessing the ritual, Tiger Shadow and Moonlight decided to continue their journey, and finally made it through the crowd without being suspected. Tiger Shadow and Moonlight finally arrived at a building that held the scrolls of gold they were coveting. After they managed to get in there, the 2 of them sneaked out to find the secret place where the gold scroll was kept. They finally arrived at the secret place, and Moonlight immediately tried to open the safe door while Tiger Shadow was on guard. The safe door finally opened and they went straight into it to look for the gold scroll. It didn't take long for them to find the scroll that contained the important information, and without further ado, they headed straight for it. But unbeknownst to both of them, it turned out that there was a strange human in the safe as well, and he immediately realized the disappearance of the gold scroll that was supposed to be stored there. On the other hand, Tiger Shadow and Moonlight managed to get out of the building quickly, without leaving the slightest trace. The next morning at the place of yesterday's sacrificial ritual, Mizuki suddenly fell limp because she had been singing non-stop over the place of the ritual all night. Then she was given a drink by Nakabara, which immediately made her refreshed. Meanwhile, Tiger Shadow and Moonlight, who were trying to leave the area, had to go back through the crowd around the ritual ceremony venue. Then, Moonlight, who was walking spontaneously, looked up at the building where the ritual was being carried out and saw that there were 3 people, who were one family, with their mouths gagged and each of their backs tied with a board. It turned out that they were being prepared to become ritual victims there. One of the 3 people was a boy who looked similar in age to Solitary, making Moonlight think back to her son's condition. Then, suddenly they were intercepted by a man and 2 of his men. where one of them was a woman named Crows and the other was a keeper of the safe where the gold scroll was previously located. It turned out that the man who was blocking them was called Ghost Swastika, and he immediately recognized Tiger Shadow because he used to be a friend of Tiger Shadow's ninja. Their goal there was to retrieve the golden scrolls and capture Tiger Shadow and Moonlight. A fight between Tiger Shadow and Moonlight against Ghost Swastika and his two men was inevitable. On the other hand, one of the three people who were ready to be sacrificed in the ritual building, which is the father, began to fight Nakabara to free himself. The cover of his mouth was opened, and he immediately ordered his wife and child to escape from there by sliding using a board on their back. Moonlight then removed the straps from their bodies, and the fight broke out again, until finally, Tiger Shadow and his wife were defeated by Ghost Swastika and Crows, who then took them to Nakabara's headquarters. There, they witnessed Nakabara's sadistic men beheading a man. Nakabara then took the golden scroll from Tiger Shadow and intended to kill him. However, Tiger Shadow immediately pleaded with Nakabara to release him, saying that he would bring him a silver scroll. Nakabara, who was tempted, agreed with one condition: he would hold Moonlight as collateral, and if Tiger Shadow did not return within 2 days, Moonlight would be killed. Tiger Shadow agreed, and he immediately began his journey to find the silver scroll. On the way, he met the father of the family they had saved from the previous Nakabara sacrifice ritual, and the man invited Tiger Shadow to visit his house. He then stopped by the man's house, which unexpectedly contained many weapons and other war equipment. The man then showed him a suit of armor which he said had the power equal to 50 men, which made Tiger Shadow interested in using it. Elsewhere, Ghost Swastika said that Nakabara's actions and his life as a ninja assassin were not right. Meanwhile, Tiger Shadow secretly sneaks into the Fire Ninja's headquarters to retrieve the silver scroll and save his son, who was held captive by Dongyun somewhere. But unexpectedly, Dongyun was also there along with many of her men. She also asked Tiger Shadow for her coveted gold scroll, and Tiger Shadow immediately gave the scroll to her. But it turned out that the gold scroll he was given was fake, and Tiger Shadow started throwing at Dongyun many other fake gold scrolls. While Dongyun and her men were busy searching for the real gold scroll, Solitary quietly picked up the silver scroll that had fallen on the ground. After blowing up the place with dynamite, Tiger Shadow immediately left with the Solitary using the armor of the man he had saved from Nakabara. Apart from successfully rescuing Solitary, Tiger Shadow also obtained a silver scroll from Dongyun. But unexpectedly, 2 of Dongyun's men who did not give up were still chasing Tiger Shadow, until finally there was a fight in the middle of the forest. While Tiger Shadow was busy fighting Dongyun's 2 men, Solitary saw that a trap had been set there, and when he cut the trap's rope, suddenly a fire shot out and instantly burned 2 of Dongyun's men alive. On the other hand, Nakabara intended to harass Moonlight, but luckily Mizuki came and stopped him. It turns out that Mizuki is not the same as Nakabara and his depraved subordinates. So far she has only been used by Nakabara to follow his heretical rituals because of her beautiful face so that people will follow his teachings. Mizuki then tells Moonlight that her family used to be strict adherents of the true religion, until one day a man appeared who killed her father, and the man started teaching to mislead the village and managed to deceive the people there with his nonsense. The next day, Nakabara intends to make Moonlight as a sacrifice for his heretical ritual. At that moment, Mizuki no longer wanted to sing along with the ritual. Then, she bravely fought Nakabara and told the villagers that they had been deceived all this time by Nakabara, because actually the teachings and rituals of Nakabara's sacrifice were a hoax and could not bring prosperity to the village. Suddenly, a group of fire ninjas led by Dongyun came and attacked the village to get both scrolls containing treasure maps and try to kill Tiger Shadow. Great chaos ensued there. After a long commotion and bloodshed, Nakabara finally came to Tiger Shadow very angry and wanted to kill him. But suddenly the Swastika Ghost came and beheaded Nakabara, because he still wanted to fight with Tiger Shadow to prove who was the greatest among them. Finally, the fight between Ghost Swastika and Tiger Shadow, assisted by Solitary, took place. On the other hand, Dongyun came to Moonlight and held her hostage so that Tiger Shadow would give her the 2 scrolls. Tiger Shadow threw the 2 scrolls, and Ghost Swastika, who saw it, finally stopped the fight because he had changed his mind and wanted to help Tiger Shadow to save Moonlight. Meanwhile, Dongyun managed to find the whereabouts of the treasure she was looking for and instantly detonated the treasure, causing them to be showered with gold pieces. Before long, Tiger Shadow, who had reconciled with the Ghost Swastika, came to save Moonlight from Dongyun. A big battle ensued between the Fire Ninja troops and the Ghost Swastika. On the other hand, Dongyun threatened that she would kill Moonlight if Shadow Tiger dared to approach her. However, suddenly Tiger Shadow saw an iron mask with a magnetic force pulling the gold pieces from the treasure. Finally, Tiger Shadow and Solitary threw the knife and iron mask at Dongyun, which made her covered in a lot of gold and eventually died. After Ghost Swastika managed to kill all the Fire Ninja troops, Tiger Shadow then gave the Iron Mask to Mizuki. But Mizuki refused and instead gave the mask to Tiger Shadow, because according to her, Tiger Shadow was the one who deserved it. After that, Mizuki promised that she would teach the right teachings to bring peace to the village. After that, Tiger Shadow along with Moonlight and Solitary left the village and returned to live their peaceful and happy lives as before. The moral message that we can take from this film is that sometimes our dark past can haunt us and even come back to ruin our peaceful lives. But like Tiger Shadow and Moonlight, we have to be able to accept and live whatever happens, especially when it involves the lives of our innocent family members. We can also learn from Mizuki, who is willing to fight against lies and evil for many people, even though it can take her own life.